I've had enough. I'm divorcing this trashy wife. Dylan exclaimed in anger. Why does it have to come to this? I've reached my limit too. What do you mean? Have you done your part as a husband? Enough, enough. I'm going to bed. He yelled like a tantrum-throwing child. Dylan headed straight to the bedroom. The word divorce kept spinning in my head. Maybe it would be better for Amy if we just divorced. Shaking that thought, I decided to sleep, preparing for my business trip tomorrow. My head had completely cooled down over the 2-day trip. Now I could deal with him calmly. I'm sorry for the other day. Huh? No one was home. What I found instead was a business card of a divorce attorney. Oh, is that how it is? If that's what you want, I'll oblige. My once calm mind now stormed with emotions. I headed to the lawyer's office. My name is Karen Wyndham, a 38-year-old working mom. I have a husband named Dylan and a high school-aged daughter, Amy. My parents have passed away, and our family home has been torn down. I was always told by my parents that I was patient. I had a habit of silently enduring anything, which they were quite worried about. For me, it's easier to endure than to argue. Currently, I work in sales. Fortunately, my clients like me, and sometimes they ask for direct transactions. So, I often go on business trips. Sometimes these trips even fall on weekends, and I feel I've made Amy lonely. I'm not lonely at all. I have friends, and grandpa and grandma. Plus, you always bring back lots of gifts. Smiling, she said that when I unintentionally asked if she felt lonely. Amy, she's grown into such a kind person. On the other hand, every time I go on a trip, Dylan makes snide remarks. Dylan and I work at the same company. He had hoped for a position like mine, one with business trips, but he lacks negotiation skills. So he was assigned to a different department. I guess he's jealous. But if he ever tries to take it out on me, my in-laws sternly scold him. Understanding in-laws have always been on my and Amy's side. Their home is within walking distance, and they're always there to help when needed. Thanks to them, we've managed to avoid major confrontations and live relatively peacefully. As usual, I made dinner, and Amy and I ate together. So, if I keep it up, I might become a regular player. That's great. You always work hard, Amy. Amy happily shared her school stories. She joined the basketball team in high school. She had always been on the bench, but it seems her hard work has finally paid off. I listened to Karen's stories with a smile, and in return, Amy gave me a beaming smile. Hey! I'm back! Just as the mood was light, a blushing Dylan walked in, breaking the atmosphere. Amy's smile vanished instantly. Amy never really liked Dylan, and her face turned sour at that moment. What, you already ate dinner? It's not a big deal. What I'm saying is, why didn't you wait for me to come home before eating? What's he talking about? It was already nearing 9 p.m. We did wait for Dylan's return until this late hour. However, Amy has morning practice tomorrow, so we couldn't wait any longer, and it was already past the usual dinner time, yet Dylan hadn't called. He probably stopped by a bar after work, which is why he's this late. If he'd apologized for making us wait, that'd be one thing, but there's no reason for him to shout at us just because we ate before him. I wanted to say that, but I held back. I can't argue in front of our daughter. If I keep my calm, Dylan will cool down soon enough. Huh? You're the one who didn't call till this late. Mom said we should wait for you. I was hungry, so I said we should eat. Is that so? If you're gonna tell us to wait for you, then you should have come home earlier. You smell like alcohol, so you went drinking, didn't you? And then you come home to complain to your wife and daughter who waited up for you. Who do you think you are? Amy said, speaking up against Dylan, echoing my thoughts. Dylan, who does dote on Amy, his daughter, has a weak spot for her. After hearing Amy's words, Dylan went silent and murmured, "Fine, I'm gonna sleep," and quickly headed to his bedroom. Oh, Dylan, if I'd said anything, you'd have responded tenfold. I couldn't help but smirk at Dylan's pitiful behavior. Mom, if you're gonna hold back, I'll talk back to him for you. Thank you, honey. But you shouldn't talk about your dad that way. He's just that guy to me. I looked over at Amy when she muttered that, but she said, "Thanks for the meal. I'm gonna head to my room." And she cleared her plate and swiftly retreated to her room. To think she'd be so cold towards her own father. Well, that's teenage daughters for you. I decided not to dwell on it and focused on finishing up the house chores. Dylan may be selfish now, but he wasn't always like this. Back when we were dating, he was always caring, always helping out with household tasks. But after we got married, he changed. Even though we both work, he pushed all household and childcare responsibilities onto me. When he'd return from business trips, there would be piles of laundry and scattered takeout containers everywhere. Every time, I'd have to muster up the energy, without a break, to take care of the chores. I always prepare meals in advance. There's no way I'm gonna eat that cold leftover food. However, Dylan refuses to eat them. Even if I say he can just reheat them, he'd retort, "Why do I have to heat it?" On the other hand, Amy heats up her meals, does her laundry, cleans her room, and if something comes up, she'd notify me or ask our in-laws for help. She listens to what I ask of her. Sometimes, it's hard to tell who's the real child here. It's probably because of how he's been that Amy doesn't really connect with him. If he had been more involved in raising her, things might have been different. But he only cared for her when he felt like it, so she stopped relying on him pretty early on. Now that she's a high schooler, it's clear she doesn't like him very much. "You must have filled Amy's head with weird ideas about me." That's what Dylan would complain about, but I think he brought it upon himself. Amy might be stern with Dylan. But otherwise, she's kind and always ready to help me out. "Mom, I finished the laundry and hung it up for you." "Oh, thank you. You must be tired from sports practice. Why don't you rest?" "It's not a big deal. Besides, you're probably tired from work too." Amy would never speak to Dylan. Whenever he tried to strike up a conversation, she'd make a visibly upset face. On the other hand, she always smiled and started conversations with me. I guess she doesn't really like being left out by Dylan. She would always shoot us glances when we were having fun talking. If he doesn't like being looked at that way, he should reflect on his behavior and change it. It's understandable that I'd feel this way. Ever since that day, Dylan started coming home late. He never really came home early to begin with, but now with all the overtime and working on weekends, he's clearly at home less. I know Dylan's department is swamped right now. I didn't really mind that. Honestly, it was less stressful for me and Amy didn't get upset. But I knew this couldn't continue. I usually go to bed early, but that night I waited up for Dylan. "Oh, you haven't gone to bed yet?" Dylan came home just before midnight, looking surprised to see me up. Dylan seemed taken aback, clearly not expecting me to be awake, his eyes wide in surprise. "You're really late." "Give me a break. I've been busy, okay? If you're gonna nag, you should have gone to bed." I tried to keep my cool despite his tone. "Let's get this over with quickly. I need you to look after Amy tomorrow. I'm gonna be on a business trip. Though I think Amy can take care of herself." "Business trip, huh? What if you're actually lying and just going on a trip with someone else?" I couldn't let that comment slide. I'm working hard to gain trust from clients, working in unfamiliar places, and he says something like that? Don't joke like that. You're the one joking. You're just using work as an excuse to slack off at home. Slack off? I always prepare meals in advance for when I'm away, right? We both work, so maybe you could. Enough. Just stop. Who's the noisy one here? I'm the one trying to keep my voice down so I don't wake Amy. Only Dylan's raising his voice. I can't take it anymore. I want a divorce. Dylan spat out those words in frustration. Why does it have to come to this? I've had enough too. Oh really? And you think you've been the perfect husband? Enough. Enough. I'm going to bed. He stormed off to the bedroom, shouting like a child throwing a tantrum. The word divorce kept spinning in my head. Maybe it would be better for Amy if we did get a divorce. Shaking off the thought, I decided to get some rest for my business trip the next day. Good morning, Mom. Morning, sweetie. You're up early. I have practice this morning. By the way, did you and him fight last night? I guess I ended up waking him after all. I couldn't help but chuckle to myself. Sorry, did I wake you? No worries, I barely heard your voice. It was just that guy who was loud. As we were talking, Dylan looked upset as he got up. Without saying a word, Dylan left the house. Acting all sulky and ignoring people is so childish. I totally agree. Oh, I've mentioned this before, but I'm going on a business trip starting today. Yeah, I know. Don't forget my souvenir. I readily agreed with Amy's cheerful request. The business trip would last 2 days. I decided to forget about Dylan and focus on my work. After successfully finishing my business tasks, I head straight home with the souvenirs I was asked to get. After these 2 days, my head felt much cooler. Now, I should be able to confront things calmly. I'm so sorry for the other day. Huh? There was no one at home. What I found instead was a business card of a divorce attorney. Oh, is that how it's gonna be? If that's what you want, then fine. What was once a calm mindset instantly turned frigid. I headed straight to the lawyer's office. Huh? Mom? After visiting the lawyer's office, I met up with Amy. The house looked oddly clean. Did you tidy up? Usually, the place is so messy you can hardly put anything down, but today it was strangely neat. Avoiding my gaze, Amy replied awkwardly. It wasn't me. I was over at a friend's house. Apparently, Amy didn't want to be alone with Dylan and decided to stay at her friend's place. I understand how she feels. I should have considered that. I should have asked my in-laws to look after Amy. But, give me a heads up next time, okay? I'm sorry. By the way, Mom, didn't you just come out of the lawyer's office? Well, actually, I told Amy about the divorce with Dylan. Of course, I'm gonna stick with you, Mom. Thanks, honey. Let's pack our bags as soon as we get home. Okay. Are we heading to Grandma and Grandpa's? I'll call them and see if it's okay. Once home, we quickly packed. Packing only the essentials, we soon set out for my in-laws. When I contacted my mother-in-law, she said, "Of course, dear. Come over right away." Mom, there's something I should tell you. On the way to my in-laws, Amy told me the real reason she disliked Dylan so much. Hearing the details, I felt both anger and understanding. There was no way Amy couldn't resent Dylan after that. Karen, Amy, welcome. I'm so sorry about Dylan. Make yourselves at home. My in-laws greeted us warmly. They're truly wonderful people. How did someone like Dylan come from them? I thanked them for their hospitality and shared with them what Amy had told me. That darn fool. We're so sorry. My in-laws were equally outraged upon hearing our story. They reassured us that we could stay as long as needed. Just as we were settling down and relaxing with my in-laws, Dylan called. I excused myself from the group and answered. Karen, you saw the business card, didn't you? If you don't want a divorce, never go against what I say again. Where the hell are you anyway? Amy hasn't come back either. What the hell is he talking about? While I was taken aback by how Dylan kept bombarding me with his one-sided remarks, I decided to answer each one patiently. Yes, I saw the divorce lawyer's business card. In fact, I've been to the attorney's office too. I won't follow your words anymore. After all, the divorce process is already underway. Right now, I'm at your parents' house. Amy is with me. Huh? We're going to be divorced? Dylan repeated in confusion, seemingly unable to comprehend my words. Guess I have to explain it properly. The day you left the divorce lawyer's business card, I went to the attorney's office too. That means the divorce proceedings are already underway. I've explained the situation to your parents, and now I'm staying at their house. Amy doesn't want to be with you anymore. We're done? Well, by then, I said, and hung up the phone. He called several times after that, but I ignored them all. Soon enough, it seemed Dylan decided to confront me in person. The doorbell rang, and my mother-in-law checked and said her stupid son had arrived. "Both of you, stay here. He's not coming in." With faces full of fury, the in-laws stepped out of the room. It was the first time I'd seen them so angry. Amy and I peeked out from our room, watching the scene unfold at the front door.
"Please, let me in. They're here, right?"
As promised, the in-laws stood their ground, blocking Dylan's entrance. Dylan tried to plead with them, but they remained steadfast.
"Hey, Karen. What's this about a divorce? You seriously went to see a lawyer?"
"Mom, I'll be right back." Saying this, Amy, her face filled with anger, went towards the entrance. Dylan, seemingly oblivious to her expression, looked relieved.
"Oh, Amy. Can you please convince Grandma and Grandpa? Look at this."
Amy showed Dylan the screen of her smartphone. Seeing that, Dylan turned pale as a ghost. On it was an image of Dylan getting cozy with a younger woman. He had been cheating. "You're the worst." With that, Amy returned inside. As she did, I approached Dylan.
"I've been fooled. You suspected my business trips were cover-ups for secret getaways, but it turns out you were the one having an affair."
"I'm sorry, it wasn't serious. I just got carried away." In my experience, cheaters always seem to say it was just for fun or that they were momentarily possessed.
"Got carried away? Weren't serious? How old do you think you are? Can't you differentiate between right and wrong? Do you have any idea how Amy felt seeing her father with a young woman? You probably thought I wouldn't say anything, huh? Unfortunately for you, even I have my limits,"
I said coldly, looking straight into Dylan's eyes. He looked at me, surprised. I realized that apart from our arguments, I had never really shown him my angry side.
"I used to care for you. I did fall in love with you and married you, after all. That's why I endured so much. But not anymore. I never want to see your face again."
With that, I returned to Amy's side. Together, we shot icy glares at Dylan.
"I'm sorry. Please, forgive me. Shut up. You're no longer our son."
Dylan came apologizing loudly, but my in-laws sent him away immediately. He's such a loudmouth. Dylan's apologies didn't touch our hearts at all. I think you can guess, but the reason Amy disliked Dylan was because she witnessed him cheating. She was walking with a friend after basketball practice and saw Dylan closely with another woman. When she subtly asked me about it, I seemed clueless, so she teamed up with her friend to gather evidence. It just made me feel so gross, I couldn't see him as a father anymore. That's why Amy started referring to Dylan as that man. To let Amy see her father's infidelity and gather evidence. I'm ashamed not only of Dylan but also of myself for not noticing. I definitely need to secure child support and a fair division of assets. I borrowed Amy's phone and stared intently at the woman Dylan cheated with. I felt like I'd seen her somewhere before. That woman looks familiar. I think she was at the welcome party for the new employees. I have a feeling she was there. She stood out because she was the only one who wore too much makeup, dressed too flashy, and wore too much perfume amidst everyone in suits. He made a move on a newbie. It's disgusting.
I don't want to think of such a person as my father.
Then I reached out to a close coworker. Once I explained the situation, word got around, and I found out that Dylan and the new employee seemed to be very close. As a result, with the evidence that Amy had prepared for me, I was able to claim property division and child support from Dylan. And another thing, that house was actually in my father-in-law's name. He'd lent it us without asking for rent. He took it back from Dylan and sold it. Given its prime location, the house was sold quickly. He gave us the money as compensation. Use this to find a new home. That's what he said as he gave us all the money. I'm grateful to my father-in-law for being so considerate, knowing how hurt we were. I couldn't be more thankful to my mother-in-law. After being thrown out of both our house and his parents,
Dylan apparently moved in with his mistress. But she was only after his money. After the division of assets and child support, it seems Dylan was left with no savings, not even a house. Naturally, he was quickly discarded and apparently kicked out. Dylan, hoping to catch my in-laws while they were out, rushed to their house and tearfully explained his situation. I just gave him a cold stare. "Can you just go away? I can't even go grocery shopping with you here. I was planning to make a seafood-heavy curry today because Amy requested it. I need to make a rich and tasty curry so Amy can give her best in basketball." "You're annoying. I'm gonna call the cops." As Amy threatened him with her phone, Dylan hurriedly left. We couldn't help but laugh at his pathetic exit.
Let's forget about him and go shopping.
What should we get as sides for the curry?
Well,
spending quality time with Amy matters more than Dylan. With a smile, Amy and I headed out to shop. After that incident, Dylan and his affair partner were given cold stares by everyone at the company, leading them both to resign voluntarily. Well, since I had contacted various people to gather information, it's no surprise that rumors spread. Dylan kept blaming everything on his affair partner, and he seemed quite obsessive. As a result, he was apparently sued for stalking by his affair partner. That affair partner, it seems, was engaged to someone else. I heard the affair was discovered by her fiancé and they broke up because of it. Now, they're both desperately trying to shift the blame on each other and are drowning in debt. For me, I've been busy looking for a new house and moving, plus I wanted to be closer to Amy, so I requested a department transfer. That request went through smoothly, and I moved to a department with no business trips, the same one where Dylan used to work. There, people told me they felt more confident relying on a hardworking wife than someone like him. It was honestly a relief when those two were gone, they said. Probably because Dylan was the type to cheat with a new hire during busy season. No wonder he got such a review. I won't be going on business trips anymore.
Awesome. Let's go shopping together sometime. I want to see the new sneakers.
Oh. Sounds good. How about we grab something tasty on our way back? Oh, and we need to thank those friends who helped us out.
Right, I heard there's a new bakery nearby. Let's check that out too.
Amy said with a cheerful smile. I've made Amy feel lonely in the past. From now on, I'll spoil her a lot more. Our in-laws are watching over us with fond smiles. Once things settle down, we must repay their kindness. We'll check out various places when we go shopping. Spending a day shopping with my daughter, I'm looking forward to it. After a while, we safely moved into our new home. It's close to my in-laws' place, so we can visit anytime. The in-laws and I agreed on adoption, and they promised to leave the inheritance to me. They're determined not to leave anything to Dylan, and it seems they'll live a long life.
Go Amy! Give it your best.
Today, I'm here to cheer for Amy's basketball game. It's her first game as a starter. The moment Amy made a shot, I jumped up in joy. From now on, we'll live a peaceful life, just the two of us. With that vow, I cheered for my daughter.